Welcome to the Light Reading Podcast. This is the Notebook Dump edition. Congratulations on making it through week 17 of 52 for 2023. My name is Phil Harvey, and I'm joined by my colleagues Nicole Ferraro in New York. Hello, Nicole.
Hello.
We've got Kelsey Zeiser in North Carolina. Hey, Kelsey.
Hi.
Take your time.
I was trying to cheers you.
Checking in from Colorado, we have Jeff Baumgartner and Mike Dano. Hello, gentlemen.
Good morning, Phil.
Hello, hello.
All right. See, Kelsey, that's how it's supposed to be done.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway.
I was trying to be cute and be like, cheers, coffee.
No, it's
it wasn't cute.
perfectly
Okay.
fine, like I care.
I'm going to throw it out.
I have a fun fact for you. I was reading this in one of Mike's stories. Did you know? Well, so analysts estimate that AT&T counts about 6 million DSL customers that are still being served via good old-fashioned copper lines. Are any of you or anyone, is there anyone you know that's still connected via DSL?
You, David.
I know of one person, but they're in a very rural spot. They're trying to get fiber out there, but they have a very slow DSL line, and was been a little bit of a challenge in the whole stay at home, work at home part of our lives. But so one. Yeah.
My mother-in-law, as of just less than a year, about a year ago, maybe, moved out of an apartment building that was kind of a retiree apartment building, and she was still a Uverse subscriber, and every year she had to call and beg them not to change anything and don't whatever, and they kept maintaining her Uverse thing, and then I went and looked it up, and it says that Uverse started like 14 years ago, and it was rebranded AT&T TV right around 2020. And she's been, but they still are. I don't know if they've pushed all the legacy customers off of Uverse, so that's probably some good portion of that 6 million. So yeah, there's definitely DSL out there. Anybody else know of anybody?
My mom and my mother-in-law, I think, are both on DSL, and so they live in Socorro, New Mexico, and there's a big fiber build-out project there. They've got TDS has come in and talked to the mayor, Ravi Bhaskar, who's been the mayor for like 40 years in that city, and he signed the deal, and they're building fiber. And my mother-in-law is signing up, and it's going to be cheaper. The DSL rates there are crazy expensive.
I imagine it gets more expensive to keep it up. Sorry, Jeff. Go
ahead.
ahead.
It's like how
it's $130 per month for internet, and then my mother-in-law is also paying for dish satellite TV. So her TV and internet bill is more than $200.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I've heard of. I've heard of a few people that I guess it's depends on where your neighborhood's located, and then like what kind of building, what the facilities are nearby. But there are more and more fiber projects being built out. So hopefully all those DSL people will have something to switch to, or maybe AT&T will tell us what the heck it's doing in fixed wireless access, and we can find out a little bit more. Anyway, that's the edge of the network. Nicole, what's happening in the middle mile?
Very, very nice segue. Wow. I'm so impressed with you.
Sometimes I can be professional. Just once a year.
This was impressive. Yeah, you're one time. Congrats. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the Middle Mile Program. So the federal government, they passed this thing called the Middle Mile Program. It's got $1 billion in it. It was in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, along with as part of $65 billion in broadband funding. The Middle Mile Program opened for applications sometime last year. It got about $5.5 billion worth of requests for a $1 billion program. And people have been waiting to find out when these grants are going to start rolling out. And we got some insight into that this week. On Wednesday, there was a Senate Appropriations hearing where Senator Joe Manchin asked Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo about the Middle Mile Program. And she said that they are working very hard to get the Middle Mile funding out by the end of June. So I followed up with NTIA about that, and they said that means that they're intending to start distributing they're targeting spring 2023 to announce the middle mile grants. So I believe that'll mean they'll start rolling out on a rolling basis between spring and the end of June. And that'll basically time perfectly with the NTIA having to announce BEAD allocations on June 30th. So spare a prayer for the NTIA in May and June, quite frankly, is the point of this story.
Yeah, they are very busy right now. A lot of deadlines
Yep.
bearing down on them. And, well, we wish them all the best.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how they select $1 billion worth of awards from $5.5 billion worth of requests. A lot of people in the industry want to see more legislation that funds more middle mile build-outs.
Yeah, I imagine there's also going to be some probably legal challenges that it's just the minute something's announced, it seems like something's legally challenged. So that'll be interesting.
Indeed.
Let's see, Kelsey, you covered Juniper earnings this week. What the heck are they up to?
Yeah, so they got about $1.4 billion in revenue for Q1. Good job, Juniper. That's up about 17% year over year. But what was kind of interesting from their earnings was that they're still trying to work through a backlog of orders, and they're also experiencing kind of a slowdown in orders right now in some of their verticals, which, the analysts at Raymond James said made sense because, a year ago in Q1, people were placing a lot of orders in anticipation of there being, a backlog. And so now they're slowing down as they're waiting for those orders to be fulfilled. But they also mentioned that the supply chain, some of those challenges are clearing up. So I think they're just working through some ongoing reverberations of the pandemic. But
yeah, it's kind of a hurry up and wait thing. Everybody ordered anticipating a shortfall, then the shortfall came. Now the shortfall's easing up, but all of those orders have been sitting in warehouses and whatever. That's Mike wrote a story about that also this week. So the two kind of help explain some of the earnings uncertainty that's going on right now. It's not just that the economy's slowing down; it's that people who can spend don't really know when to spend.
Right. Yeah. I think like you said, it's pretty across the board. A lot of companies are dealing, it's not just Juniper dealing with recovering from the supply chain. And, now we've got super inflation and working through those backlogs. So there's a lot going on.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of earnings, we had cable and now I guess more than ever, wireless earnings underway this week. Jeff, what happened with Comcast?
Yeah, right. Yeah, earnings season continues every morning. It feels like, right, for the next week or so. Yeah, we're kind of getting into the cable part of our program, and I think with Comcast, there were no major surprises or anything. I mean, maybe a small one. They added like 3,000 broadband subscribers rather than going negative. Analysts thought they were going to lose around 27,000. So a small gain. I mean,
Wow.
It's more like 3,000. It's like treading water, I guess, but I suppose it does show some stability against some of the recent gains from fixed wireless and fiber competition. And looked right before we jumped on, and their stock, Comcast stock, was up 8% this morning. So Thursday. So even a small gain is encouraging, or an encouraging sign for investors. Now the Dave Watson, the CEO of the cable unit, said they saw a slight uptick from a new promotion that targets fixed wireless. It's like $25 per month for 200 megabit broadband service with a 24-month promotional price for that. But also feels like they said, I mean, the small gain in Q1 is going to be pretty short-lived because they think that net ads are going to go the other way and go negative in the second quarter, which is always weak year in, year out because students are returning, snowbirds are going back. But they're trying to they're continuing to try to change the narrative to focus on broadband ARPU as the metric to focus on, and that did rise 4.5%. So I think they're pretty happy with the way that's tracking. And then on the mobile side, still a pretty bright spot. They gained about 355,000 lines in the quarter, so they're up to 5.66 million. And some analysts kind of tied into that are starting to argue that maybe cable's mobile business is an underappreciated piece of the business, but it's getting harder to extract all that now that Comcast is starting to build all that into this new reporting segment called connectivity and platform. So it's a little bit harder to delineate exactly how mobile is performing on its own. And then Charter is going to be next, so we're going to see how they're tracking. And then we're still keeping tabs on pay TV. It's still pretty ugly. Comcast losses jumped pretty high, so they're kind of turning their focus to the platforms stuff with Xumo, with the joint venture, and trying to build that piece of the business and focus on streaming. So that was kind of the boil down on Comcast, and not to even mention the whole Jeff Shell saga. that came up too, but they kind of said, hey, we've got a deep bench, we're fine. Mike Kavanaugh is going to take it on in the interim basis, that role, but that's an indication that there's no imminent change in leadership coming over at NBCU. So
right. The wireless segment of these cable companies is it seems like it's just been growth every single quarter. They haven't really had a as far as I can tell, they haven't had a down quarter just yet.
They were close to another quarterly record. I think they were like 10,000 off the last record, but it was a record first quarter for what that's worth. So continuing to build. I mean, that's kind of the growth story for them right now, because even business services is growing, but at a much smaller pace.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay, Mike, what's going on in your neck of the woods, or what types of things are in your notebook now?
Yeah. Lots of stuff going on this week. Like Jeff said, plenty of earnings, and poor Jeff has been covering them, I think, every morning for the past 3 or 4 weeks now. Has been, I don't know.
And hockey playoffs don't help when the games are over at like midnight. Yeah. So.
Wow. Do we need to send you like a, I don't know, annual coffee subscription?
Some Red Bull or something to start the morning would work. Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, why are there so many misspellings? Jeff's just like,
smashing the keyboard.
Just all jittery.
Yeah. I've got one of my last ones is T-Mobile. That's this afternoon. So we'll see what they say. But I stumbled across coming out of my notebook, Phil, is I stumbled across a TechCrunch article about Commscope and how they got hacked. And it was so all this information comes out of the TechCrunch article, but Commscope did confirm all this information. But it sounds like, and Commscope, I mean, it's a big deal for telecom because Commscope is one of the big equipment suppliers for wireless, and they supply some stuff to the cable and fiber guys as well. So they're a pretty big name in our space in terms of U.S. equipment suppliers, and so they got hacked. It's a ransomware hack. It's not clear exactly what data they stole, but it looks like information on Commscope products. As well as information on Commscope employees, including Commscope employee social security numbers, passport numbers, information on their families, like lots of data that you would not want out there, either as a vendor or as just a company with, human beings as employees. So according to the article, Commscope did confirm some of the information, but not all of it. They're not saying a whole lot, but it's certainly, we've had a huge hack into Dish. We've had security breaches into T-Mobile and some suppliers that work with AT&T and Verizon and, vendors like Ubiquiti in the past. And so this is becoming a fairly common thing, but it's just it's another example of like, we probably ought to all brush up on our security training.
Yeah, and in the technology industry too, it's particularly disturbing because you would think these companies would be more savvy about this stuff than most, and we're finding that they're simply not. They're just big amorphous bureaucracies, just like every other big company. The other weird thing about that too is that it's bad enough when your connectivity provider gets hacked and all your account details or whatever, but it's even more scary when your employer gets hacked because you share things with your employer and then you just assume safety because they tell you to, because that's part of your legal agreement as an employee in the US especially. I do wonder, not specific to Comcast, but I do wonder when companies are breached like this and verifiable information gets out. I wonder if that opens them up to legal trouble from their employees down the road.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the FCC has been holding a proceeding about how to handle security breaches, and with a focus on like when should companies, disclose that they've been breached, and how should they disclose that information? Because there's no real rules around this, and so if a hack does happen, how do Commscope equipment customers find out? How do they know that their equipment is still secure, that they've purchased from Commscope? Or how do the employees know, what recourse do they have if their data has been stolen? It's sort of a real squishy area right now. So it makes me really happy that I have a really strong password. It's password123. I figure unbeatable. So I feel very safe in this whole thing.
And then,
I mean, as long as the P in password is capitalized, I think you're good to go.
Now, I followed the recommendations that say you should have a short sentence. So mine is, "This is my password," with an exclamation point. So
I had a friend in college who used my maiden name as her password because it was so long. She's like, "No one will guess it." I was like, "Actually, it's not a bad idea."
All right, everyone use Kelsey's maiden name.
Custer.
Let's see. Okay, well, on to other things threatening the universe of as we know it. Maybe the multiverse. I didn't write this, but somebody wrote the flash poll for me and said, "How many times will you watch the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie?" So that's our flash poll.
Who could have
Mike is
done
so
that?
excited.
What? So Nicole will see it 100 times? Is there a 1 there? Not just a 0?
Oh, she muted
Nicole's
herself
on
because she
mute.
can't
I think it
handle
was
it.
1K, 1,000 times.
1K. 1,000 times?
I'll see that movie as many times as I've gotten acquainted with, who is that, Bane, that we talked about last week? I've never heard of. Yeah.
Right.
Nicole,
Well, this is what, number 3?
I know.
I haven't even seen 2, so
This
I'm
is
behind.
number
2 is
3. Yeah.
What's
Or are we
fine.
on like 8? I've lost track.
Yeah, it's confusing because all those characters end up in like other Marvel movies, like different Avengers or Thor. They just kind of like pop up and
Confusing.
I'm waiting
or
until
awesome?
they.
I feel like you mean awesome when you say confusing.
This is comic book Mike coming to
How dare you
defend
besmirch the
Marvel's
Marvel
honor.
universe?
Oh, sorry. Please forgive me.
No, the cartoon characters I'm still watching are I'm still watching all the spring football stuff. So it's USFL and the XFL and the leagues of guys looking at clipboards getting upset. That just seems to be that's my zen for now.
When you said cartoon, I thought you were going to be like, "Oh, I'm still catching up on old episodes of Thundercats."
Yeah, maybe. I don't even know enough about Thundercats to finish the joke. So yeah, I got nothing. Sorry. I'm aware of it, but I haven't seen it. I think I'm mostly aware of it because the guy in somewhere in my past, somebody sat next to me and had a Thundercats lunchbox. So, and that was pretty cool. But I don't remember anything about the cartoon. I don't think I ever watched it. My cat is getting in the way again.
I think Rhino, wasn't he like the head one, and then was She-Ra, or was that something else?
I don't know.
I don't share any references with you people.
I got nothing. Yeah.
Nicole didn't have a TV growing up.
No, Nicole, maybe we can have a whole
I watched
podcast.
The Elephant Show, Fraggle Rock, Mary Tyler Moore.
Fraggle Rock was good.
The Elephant
Nicole
Show.
just
I don't think I've heard of that one.
sat there.
My Girl was my favorite movie.
She was
I think
listening to
Nicole
her.
adopted a lot from Fraggle Rock. She's like, I'm gonna just stay in this cave.
Exactly. Yeah.
She was listening to her,
Yeah.
her Velvet Underground vinyl and smoking Swisher Sweets when she was like 8 years old. So
I used to actually hide in the attic and read Flowers in the Attic.
right.
Like in the crawl space.
Well, a
So
lot to
that's what I
unpack
was
there.
doing. Absolutely. We don't have time
Talk
on this
about
show.
that in therapy.
Yeah. Don't
Well-
worry, I've got a standing appointment for that.
Okay,
But
good.
anyway,
If the weather permits, please get out this weekend. Get out from your crawl spaces and get out into the world. That would be a nice thing, and I think that's a good place to leave it for now. So we'll wrap this up so Mike can get to the movies. This will wrap up the edition, the Notebook Dump edition, closing out the week of Friday, April 28th. 2023. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for watching. Editors, thank you for your help, and we will see you all next time.
Bye forever.
Shut down, shut him up.